Good morning. My name is Danielle Melius, and I'm a recent UNH grad from their Wildlife and Conservation Biology program with a minor in geospatial analysis. And I'm working with the City of Concord, along with the UNH Sustainability Institute, to provide Concord with their first citywide tree inventory. So, one thing that the previous fellows that had worked for the City of Concord had noticed, specifically the ones that were doing a greenhouse gas emissions inventory, was that they were hitting a roadblock slash were limited by the lack of data that they had on Concord's tree canopy. So the goal of this project was, of course, to map the tree canopy, which would allow us to visualize the tree canopy within the urban growth areas versus the rural areas, the canopy on private versus public land, and allow us to also quantify those greenhouse gas emission stores and to make recommendations of where we should plant more trees for the most benefits, along with providing community outreach and education for anyone who's interested about trees and nature, whether that be someone who wants to know where to start when it comes to planting trees on their land, or the benefits of planting native species over non-native and invasive species. The and the end goal or the deliverables of this project would be an ArcGIS dashboard, which would allow anyone with a screen to be able to look at these different maps, to zoom in, to zoom out, to click on locations, to find their homes, and to be able to also look at it on a ward basis, to be able to compare the different statistics per ward. I know I'm not from Concord, but I'm from Connecticut, and I know that I would want to see, does my ward have the most trees? Are we at a higher risk for flood risk? Have we seen more canopy loss since the 80s? And this dashboard would allow anyone to be able to look at that, along with the more generalized information on the totals of Concord's canopy as a whole. Along with, we can also create story maps, which is a good mix of stories and maps, of course, but providing a more accessible, simple version of being able to read through a story, to be able to look at the maps that are referenced in it, along with providing a methodology for other municipalities and cities to take this framework, to make improvements, to make it more suitable to their own cities, and do it in a low cost, hopefully understandable way. So some of the platforms that I used to do this research was ArcGIS Pro, Google Earth Engine, and iTree, which is part of the USDA. And those platforms, of course, allowed me to map the canopy and the more specific parts of it, along with the risk and benefits that comes with planting more trees. We looked at the urban heat island, which is the surface temperature, specifically from 2013 to 2023. We can also look at areas that are more susceptible or have been found to have more invasive species, along with areas with increased flood risk, areas that have seen canopy loss, areas that are not as permeable for the wildlife in those areas. iTree was allowed us to quantify the economic values of these benefits, and a mix of all of those allowed us to make these, in a ward basis, to make these recommendations of which wards we should start with first when it comes to planting for the most benefits. Our results specifically found that 61% of Concord is covered by tree canopy with about 30,000 acres, which is amazing. I mean, again, I came from Connecticut, and when I think of the cities that I grew up near, which is Hartford and New Haven, I could almost bet that they don't have nearly as much tree canopy. But like Connecticut and a lot of other states in New England and around the world, they have seen a decrease in the canopy with almost a negative 1% canopy or 1% canopy loss since 1985. Which we can look at it in more specific areas of being able to see which areas have seen these canopy loss and try to figure out exactly what caused them if we don't know. We also were able to see that about 35% of the canopy is on public land, with the rest of it being on private, which I feel like is a very important statistic to show or present, because the city of Concord can only plant so many trees, and they could plant a tree in every place that they possibly could, but eventually they'd run out of space. And all that would be left to help continue to grow this canopy, it would be up to the private property owners. And being able to know, and by educating them on the benefits, hopefully we could get more of both sides, more canopy in private and more canopy in public lands. Of course, we also saw an increase in the surface temperature since 2013, as many other cities have seen, which hopefully by planting more trees, we can have a decrease in the surface temperature over time. So, who does this project serve? Who benefits from it? Well, I'm a little biased, but I feel like anyone could benefit from this information, whether it be people like my mentor, Beth, planners, people who will take this data and actually get the ball rolling of planting these trees for the most benefits. The residents, the people, hopefully they can experience cooler temperatures, less flooding, a healthier community and ecosystem. I mean, the wildlife, of course. We can't talk about natures and trees without talking about the animals that rely on them. And by increasing the tree canopy, we can increase the landscape permeability, which would mean hopefully less vehicle collisions, as animals wouldn't have to cross roads to continue on their way, which would save money for insurance and medical bills, and also save the lives of all the critters and all the animals that unfortunately are hit by cars due to the lack of accessible and safe ways of crossing these streets, crossing these highways. And of course, as I mentioned before, this would provide a low-cost model for mapping urban canopies so that whether that be another city or small towns can take this information and map their own canopies. iTree was able to give us the values of this information, which, of course, how else are you supposed to present the benefits and what this canopy does without putting it into money terms? But almost 17.4 million dollars worth of carbon is sequestered every year because of Concord's tree canopy. 437 million of it is stored in general, with air quality and stormwater benefits, saving hundreds of thousands worth of dollars annually, with $18.4 million in total benefits annually, which when that money doesn't have to be spent on repairing areas due to floods, they can put that money into different places, whether that be schools or parks, and no matter what, everyone benefits. So, what are the next steps for this project? Well, this project will be presented to the City of Concord Committee to be reviewed and hopefully adapted into their planning decisions. It would be able to, of course, provide a framework and a start point to where we should prioritize the tree planting. Obviously, we should start in a ward that has seen the most canopy loss, that has the least amount of existing canopy, areas that are that have higher flood risk, or areas that are not as or have lower landscape permeability. And while I could only do so much with this project in one summer, and most of it done online 2 states away, this project can be the start of people who can go into the field and get even more specific data on Concord's tree canopy. They could take, say, areas of canopy loss from my map and then be able to investigate what caused this canopy loss. Was it clear cutting for a parking lot, or was it an invasive plant or tree or invasive plant or bug that caused this canopy loss? And just be able to further improve the land classification that we had and make these maps and this data even more accurate. Because again, I can only do so much on a computer from 2 states away. But overall, I want to say thank you to the Sustainability Institute, because this was an amazing summer. Even from, again, 2 states away, being at home, I feel like I learned a lot, and it really opened a lot of doors for me. I want to say thank you to my advisor and my mentor, Beth, who part of me wished I worked in person with, because I wish I could have learned more from her, because she was amazing, even in the small time and in the distance from being far away. But thank you all for listening to my presentation. Have a great day.